Although not required by the FCRA, it is safest to request an investigation in writing, keeping copies of all correspondence, or to follow up a telephone request with a written confirmation. Telephone disputes do not create an adequate record in the event a consumer needs to follow up a failed dispute with litigation. In addition, the consumer will not be able to provide documentary support of the dispute by telephone. Furthermore, although the FCRA requires national credit bureaus to maintain a toll-free number for consumers, telephone access to the credit bureaus is not always consistent. It is even advisable to send the request by certified mail, return receipt requested. Even though the consumer retains a mailing presumption, this may still leave her with a marginal claim. If the credit bureau can claim that it never received the dispute, it will argue that it merely made a mistake, rather than be forced to defend a claim that its procedures themselves are inadequate. Avoid using the Internet to forward disputes, for some of the same reasons. 2. Don't be limited by credit bureau request forms. When consumers request copies of their credit reports from the national credit bureaus Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, they will receive a dispute form that they are encouraged to use. These forms attempt to pigeonhole the dispute into one of several general types, and do not facilitate a detailed consumer dispute. These forms provide a list of check-box dispute choices and appear to discourage a more substantive dispute. Consumers using such forms for a dispute should supplement the forms with additional written details and documentary support. Internet disputes confine consumers to a similar list of check boxes, and thus should be avoided. 3. The consumer should keep a file of all communications. A request for investigation may be just the beginning of a protracted battle with the credit bureau that may ignore correspondence or fail to follow up as promised. Thus, it is good practice for the consumer to establish a file of all correspondence sent to and received from the credit bureau, and to have proof that the credit bureau has received the consumer's correspondence. Similarly, the consumer should keep dated notes of all telephone calls. 4. Also notify the furnisher of the dispute. Consumers at the same time should directly notify the creditor or other furnisher of the disputed information. The critical notice of dispute is directed to the credit bureau, which triggers the right to an investigation that the consumer can enforce. The bureau will then ask the furnisher to investigate. But also sending a detailed notice to the furnisher will forestall any arguments by the furnisher that the notice from the credit bureau was not adequate for it to conduct a reasonable investigation.